Hello designers and welcome to part 2 of learning isometric design in Affinity Designer. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll leave a link in the description and a card in the top right hand corner. In part 2, you will learn how to create a bedroom scene and an ice lolly. This is a long slow-paced video, so I've included timestamps to enable you to skip sections easily. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, let's design our bedroom. Just so you know, I have snapping turned on. In current plane, it's set to top. Edit in plane is selected and also the rectangle tool. Let's engage our grid and we'll zoom in a little bit. I'll just select somewhere around here and I'll click, hold down shift and drag downwards. Let's make about 7 blocks. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is the beginning of our floor. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is create some thickness to the floor. So I'll just click on front in the plane, zoom in a little bit, and maybe I'll make it 3 thick. So I'll just drag up 3. And now that I've dragged up 3, I'll just grab the handle and I will just drag it down until it snaps into place. And then I will make this slightly darker. And I'll want to do the same for the other side, but I'm going to use a shortcut way of doing it. So I'm just going to press V for the move tool, and I'm going to press Command J to duplicate that. And then I'll head up to the transform tool and click flip horizontal. Now I'll just simply click and drag it until it clicks into place, and I'll make this side slightly darker. So this is our floor. Let's keep everything tidy. So in the layers panel, I'll select all of them, click the first one, hold down shift, click the last, and then press Command G to group them. And I will name it floor. Okay, let's create the wall. So I will head up to, let's see, side, and I will click on M, shortcut for our rectangle tool, and I will select down here. Click and hold down shift all the way. I'm going to want this slightly shorter than that. So I want about 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall. So I'll click and drag the handle till it goes down one more. Now I don't want this color, I want blue. So I'll head up to the colors tab and I will select some kind of blue, maybe a kind of dark one like this. And let's add some thickness to this as well. So I'll head down and I'll press front because this will be the side of the wall. And I'll start it from around about, maybe 3 thick, 3 small squares thick. So I've dragged it across and now I could just drag all the way up. Let's zoom out and drag all the way to the top. Let's change the color of this slightly. Now a better way to color this would be to create a swatch and have all the different colors laid out for you. But in this tutorial, I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool and just do it by eye. Okay, let's create the top section here to add thickness. So I'll click top again and we will go in. I will select escape to stop this from being highlighted. And I'll click and drag outwards to about here, zoom out. Click the handle all the way to the top. And let's make this a slightly lighter color. Because remember in the first tutorial, part 1, I was talking about remember where your light source is coming from. So I'm going to kind of imagine that my light source is coming from around this direction here. Say the sun is around here. Okay, let's zoom in slightly more. And you know what, whilst we've got this here, let's group that. So I select all of them and press Command G and I'll call this wall. Okay, now that that's done, I will press Command G and I will copy that. Press V, the move tool. I'll press transform, flip horizontal, and I will click and drag across until it snaps into place. There we go, it snapped into place. Looking quite good. The only thing we need to do is change the color of this and make sure the thick top section here goes all the way up to the edge. So we'll do that bit first. So I'll just double click and that will open up this group of layers here that we've grouped. And I'll just drag the handle up like so. Next thing is to change the color of this. I will make this slightly lighter. Maybe something like that might do. Okay, I'll press Command and single quotation mark just to have a look what we've got. Okay, this looks cool. Kind of looks a little bit like the cube we created earlier, doesn't it? It's looking a bit bare, so the next thing I want to do is create a chair and a desk maybe. So in the layers panel, oh, they're all named, so that's fine. Okay, maybe I will call them, this can be the left wall. So wall left and wall right. Okay, re-engage the grid and let's go in and create some more things. Now let's make the desk. So click on the rectangle tool and I'm just going to click front on the plane mode. And I think I will choose one whole block thickness. So I'll do it to about here and I'll just drag up maybe to something around here. Maybe down a little bit, looks a bit tall. Okay, that's the side of our desk. I'm gonna maybe give it some kind of brown color, maybe something like that for now. And I want to create the top of the desk. So I'll click on top plane, click on escape to stop highlighting that. And I will drag out to around here and click the handle like we've been doing the whole time. And this one should be a bit lighter if the light source is coming from above. So I'll just put it to about here. And I want to duplicate this shape here. So I'm going to press V so I can select it. Selected it and Command J to duplicate it. And I will just simply click, hold down Shift and drag upwards. And you can see this line here allowing us to drag it up without deviating. Okay, now we want to add some thickness to this. So I will click on side and we could draw more rectangles here, but I'll just grab the pen tool for this to make it slightly easier. So I'll just do one block thickness. So I'm just going to click. Okay, well, that's one thickness there. That's one there. One on the left side, down here, and there. Let's just keep clicking all the way around until we complete our shape. And our shape is completed. Now we just got to fill it with some kind of color. So I'll just click on the color tab and make it fairly dark because it's going to be away from the light. And now you can see the other side of the desk. It doesn't really work, so I'm going to press V so I can select the background layer. I'm going to click on Shift and just move it forward a little bit. And it looks like we didn't quite get that right there, so I will head into the node, just zoom in, and I'll click on that and just drag down till we get it right. Everything else looks fine. That is our desk complete. It's a simple desk, but that's fine. In the layers panel, let's tidy it up again. Click the first, keep on finger on Shift, click the last, Command G, which is group, and this we'll call desk. Let's add a piece of paper onto this desk before we go any further, because some kind of work has to be done. So I'll click on M again in my top plane, and I'll just click somewhere like, make it like an A4 piece of paper around there, and I'll make it completely white. And I'll add some writing on here as well. So I'm going to click and drag outwards to around about here. And I'll just make it slightly gray. Click on the move tool, V, and I will press Command J to duplicate that. Keep my finger on Shift, click and drag down slightly about here. And I'll just press Command J again, and this will be power duplicating what we've just done. I'll do it one more time and make it slightly shorter on that side. Okay, now we'll group all of these. And I'm just going to, actually I'll group the piece of paper as well, press Command G and this will be our paper. Let's click Command S to save this. You don't want to lose anything, so remember to save quite regularly. Affinity Designer doesn't usually crash, but it's always good to be safe. All right, so let's create a chair to go with that desk. Click M, the rectangle tool, let's zoom in, and let's click side. I'll click here, I'll drag out to about here, so a bit of the paper is showing, and I'll click and drag down to around about there. I can notice the paper is on top, so I'll just click and drag the shape we've just created on the layers panel and place it on top there. Again, we're going to need to add thickness, so let's head on to top in the plane mode, zoom in and press escape. Oh, it hasn't quite lined up there. I'm just going to make sure that's lined up. If I zoomed in a little bit better, I might have been able to get it the first time, so I'll just press the move tool again, V, and I'll select that. And I'll just snap it down there. We'll just make sure everything else seems to be lined up. It does. So, okay, that's great. Let's make this dark gray actually. And now we will add the side. So press M, zoom in, press escape, click and drag out. How thick should we have it? About here? Yeah, around about there, I think. Click and drag outwards. And let's make that lighter on top. Okay, let's do the same for this side. So we'll press front in the plane section. Zoom in again, press escape, click the corner, drag out till it snaps, zoom out a little bit, and then you can just click the handle and drag down. So about there. Let's make that slightly darker in the colors. Let's create the seat. So we'll head to top, and you can see how this is all working. Head to top, press escape, click the corner, drag up to about there, click and drag to here. It's on top of our shape here, so we don't want that. So I'll click it in the layers panel and drag it to the bottom layer of our chair. I'm going to make this dark as it's under the desk. And we'll add some thickness to this as well. So for this, I'll press side in the plane mode. And I'll just click anywhere around here. And I'll just drag it out like so. Now I could either drag this layer, because you can see it's going over the table. I could either drag the layer so it goes underneath the desk like that and change the color. Or I could, if I drag it back up, or I could press convert to curves. And then we'll press A for the node tool. It's over here on the tools panel. So then I could just click on this node, hold down shift, and so it follows the line. And there you have it. I don't have to place it under the desk. Okay, let's press M again to create another shape. Let's bring down the back of this chair slightly so it touches that. There we go. It's just a simple blocky chair. So that's the seat and the backrest done. Let's create the legs. So I will click on side. I'll head down, click the corner of the chair, click and drag out slightly. Let's get our thickness set first, about here, and I will click the handle and drag it down. Let's grab the eyedropper tool here and click on the back. We'll want it the same color as that. And we'll just click the little circle and it's matched the color of the backrest. Press V for the move tool and we'll press Command J and that will duplicate this chair leg. I'll flip it in the transform tool and I'll just drag it across slightly like this. Okay, let's change the color slightly. So we'll make it the same color as this side will be facing this way. So again, eyedropper tool, select the color, click on the eyedropper color that you've selected, and there we have it. Okay, so we have 2 chair legs now. I'm going to group these just so it's a little bit easier because things are getting a bit messy in the layers panel here. So I've got that one, hold down Shift, select the other, and Command G to group and call it leg. I'll just drag that to the bottom and I'll duplicate this shape so that we can add it around the other corners of the chair. Command J and click, hold down Shift, and it clicks into place, and we'll do that again. Command J, it's power duplicated it there. I could press Command C, Command V to copy and paste, or technically I could, if I just go back and back again, I'll click off of it. Instead of that, I can just press Command and drag, and it will automatically create a duplicate of that item. I'll press the same again. Command, I'll keep my finger on Shift as well, and it drags up like that. Let's make it about that thick, shall we? And this bit's poking out. So again, I'm going to go in. I'm going to press Convert to Curves. I'm going to press A for my node tool. I'm going to click on it, keep my finger on Shift, and just drag it down. That is our chair complete. So select all of the layers to tidy it up. Command G, and we'll call it chair. So the next thing I think we should add is a TV, and let's add it to the right hand side wall. If you look in the layers panel, a new layer has magically appeared. It's just a JPEG. It's an old thumbnail for one of my old YouTube tutorials. And let's make this into a TV on the wall. So let's zoom out and click V for the move tool. And let's head on over to the right hand side wall. Let's activate the grid. Zoom in a little bit. And let's click Fit to Plane. And it's fitted to the plane. So it looks like it's where it should be. It's in place. Okay, I'm just lining it up to some of these, to the grid. I'm going to make that slightly smaller because I think that's pretty big TV. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is trace around here with the pen tool, and you'll see why now. So press P for the pen tool, zoom in, and click on each corner. We're drawing around the shape. I got that wrong. There we go. Okay, the next thing we want is to add a stroke. So head on up to stroke, click it, and we'll just make it black. That's pretty thick there. So I will click on this line up here and we'll change the width. So I'm thinking that will be fine. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is head on up to layer and then expand stroke. Now this is no longer a stroke, it's now a curve, it's a shape. If you look here in the layers panel, it's no longer called a stroke, it's called a curve. Let's add some thickness to this. So click on M for the rectangle tool and click on top in the current plane mode. Head up to the corner and just click and drag out. You can see it's still got the stroke from the last one. You can either change it here, stroke here, or stroke here. So I'll just click on stroke, this donut looking thing, and click that line there, and that gets rid of it completely. Now we want a fill, so I'll select the other one and I'll make this kind of light gray like that. Zoom out and I'll just drag the handle out till it snaps in place on the last corner there. I think that's a bit too thick, so I'm just going to drag it in slightly. Now click front plane mode, zoom in, click on the corner, bottom right hand corner, and drag out and up. And we haven't quite got it there, so I'll just grab that handle and move it across, and I'll make this slightly darker. Let's get the grid off so we can see what it looks like. And we have a TV with my YouTube channel playing on it. Great. Let's group these layers. Command G and call it TV. Okay, let's create a bed. So I'll do that down here in the left-hand corner. Let's select the grid, get that going, and I'll press front, and I'll click M for the rectangle tool, and let's create the headboard of a bed. So the back section, basically. Make it about that wide, and I'll maybe make it a kind of white color like this. Okay, now press the move tool, V, and I'll just press top, and we can bring it out slightly. I've got my finger on shift, and we'll just bring it down slightly so we can make it 1 block thickness. This will be our backing board, or headboard, I should say, or headrest. Not exactly sure what you call it now, actually. Click on your rectangle tool again and click on side, and we'll just create that thickness. Drag that up, select a color. I'll make it slightly darker because it's furthest away from our light source, and click top again. And I'll click on the top corner here and drag that handle down till it snaps in place and make it light. I should probably make that darker actually. Now let's create the part of the bed where the mattress will lie on top of. So click side and zoom in. We'll click and drag. I'll just press escape. We'll click and drag from about here and make it 3 in thickness. And let's create the same color on this shape as the headboard on the corner there. So I'll just click the eyedropper tool and make it the same color. And zoom out slightly and let's give it some length. I think about this long will do. And let's create the end of the bed. So I'll press front, zoom in, press escape, create the thickness, and we will just drag it out around about here. Now, if I click on top, I'll be able to see where the line goes from the board. So maybe from here, if you look at the left red line, that lines up with the other side down here. And if I head back up, and the green line ends up around this place here. So I'll just keep dragging till I get to there. I'll just check again. Yes, we're in the right place. Okay, let's make this color the same as the headboard. Again, the eyedropper tool, let go and click on the little circle, and we've got our color. Now let's create the top of this bed. So we'll click, well, top is already selected. So I'll just go to the corner over here. Oops, let me select the top layer again. Just click the corner over here and I'll just drag out like that and drag down until it snaps into place. Now I'll make this light as well. Eyedropper tool, top, click, we've got it. So the next thing I think I want down here is a couple of legs, and we'll do it the same way we did the desk. So I'll just click on side, head down, I'll just make it 2 across, 2 up. Eyedropper, side, click. Okay, that's great. Press V for the move tool and we'll duplicate that, Command J, and we'll flip it around. Drag across until it snaps into place. Again, we've got to match the colors. So eyedropper, down, click, and now they've lined up. That looks a little thick actually compared to the one over there. So I may make it slightly smaller actually. So this one I will just drag down so it's just 1. And for this one I will also drag it. I have to click on the other plane. I'll just drag it down like that so it's just a slim one. That looks better. We'll group that in the layers, Command G to group, and we'll call it leg. Command J to duplicate that. Hold down Shift and drag up until it snaps into place. Grab both legs and bring them to the bottom of the bed layers, which I've created there, which is looking a little bit messy, but we'll tidy it up in a minute. In fact, let's tidy it up now. Select all of them, Command G, and we'll call it bed base. The next thing we want to create is a mattress. So I'll create the thickness of the mattress now. So I'll click on side and click M, and round about here I'll grab it from. So up the top, maybe 3 in thickness, and just drag it down till it reaches this point here. We'll make this a kind of light yellow color, something like that. Switch to the front plane, press escape, click on the corner, drag down for the thickness, grab the handle and drag up. Now if you look, we're leaving one square gap on each side, and we need to make this slightly darker. So around about here. And again, let's create the top of this. So I will click top, escape, click on the corner and drag out all the way to the bottom. I'll change the color at this point. And make it slightly lighter. I'll make this one slightly darker as I'm changing it as I'm going along. So the top layer should be a little bit lighter if the light is going to be touching that first, like everything else here. And I will just drag out and across till it snaps into place. And that is our mattress. Now let's quickly create a couple of little pillows. Press escape. Maybe a little bit more. All right, about here. Let's make it completely white, that one. Press the move tool, V, and drag up one full block. Okay, now we'll just create the sides for this. And it's the same as we've been doing the whole time. Press M, drag up the thickness, go here. Slightly darker on the side. Switch to front, click the corner, drag down, get the thickness, drag the handle and out. So I'll just change the color slightly. And now I'll group this pillow, Command G, I'll just name it real quick. And I'll also group the mattress. Press V. We can select our pillow. And I will duplicate that. I'll just click on Command and Shift and I'll just draw it across out like so. And I'll grab them both so I can just center them around about here. So if we zoom out, take off the grid, we can see what we've created so far. It's a very blocky room, but it's coming together. We have to add a duvet now, don't we? So let's zoom in and create that. Activate the grid. Click on top. Click M. Draw out a rectangle. Make it white. Press V for the move tool. Click and drag up slightly so we can create our thickness. And now we will create the front and side. So let's start with the side. Click M. Press escape. Click and drag down. down to here for now, and click and snap it in place. We'll make this slightly darker. Click front, zoom in, click and drag, and we'll drag that all the way down until it meets the corner of the bed. Now, whilst front is selected, press escape, click on the corner, drag down, and up. Press the move tool, change the color of this so it's slightly darker, and we will move this out a little section, and we'll just line it up to the thickness that we created earlier. Click on the top layer, and there we go. We've got it here. Not the best way of doing it, but you kind of get the idea. And I'll just extend this slightly further, as if it's hanging off the side of the bed. Now, to fill this gap here, I just click on P for the pen tool, and I'll click on the corner, hold my finger on shift so it goes right down till it touches the line. Click once and just fill the gap. And I'll grab the eyedropper tool to match that color there. Okay, so we have that part of the duvet. We just got to make the lower half of the duvet the same color. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press V, the move tool. I'm going to head back to my mattress layer. I'm going to open that up. And this is the top here. I'm just going to press Command J to duplicate that yellow layer. I'm just going to drag that down, and I'm going to make it white, totally white. And I'll do the same for this as well. In fact, I will just change the color of this. So I'll make it a little bit lighter gray, something like this. And this will have to be much darker. But for this one, because it goes up and you can see the mattress here, or the under sheet, I will click Command J, which has duplicated that in the layers panel. Now I'll just drag that duplicated layer, and I'll make that some kind of darker gray, like so. Should probably match that to this color here. In fact, I think that should be way lighter than that. So I'll click on that, and I will just make sure that's the same color. Eyedropper tool down there, click, it's the same color. And I'll make this layer and this layer slightly darker. There we go, I think that's better. Oh, let's not forget the little triangle. I'll click Command S, that's for save, and let's look what we have so far. Let's create a window. Let's place it around about here. But first, let's tidy up our layers. So select all the layers that contain the bed. So click on the first one, head down to the last layer, hold your finger on shift, click, Command G to group, and name it bed. Press return, and that's done. Click on your rectangle tool, zoom in, and let's activate the grid again. Make sure side is selected, and we'll grab it from around about here and drag out and down to here. Okay, now let's create the windowsill down here. But first, let's check the thickness of this section here. So I'll just press front so we can see how thick it is. It's 3 thick, 1, 2, 3 little squares thick, and that's the thickness we will make our windowsill. So press top and press M, and we will select 3 thick in, so there. Let's change the color to white for now, and we'll just drag it all the way down to the last point down here. Now I could select convert to curves and move that in, or I could clip this windowsill shape inside of this window shape. So I will go to the layers panel, and I'll select the windowsill, and I'll click and drag down and to the right, and you can see now it's clipped inside. I'll let go. And whilst this is still selected, I will create the front. So click on front, and press escape, and we'll select this corner here, and we'll just drag out like that to get the thickness, change the color slightly, and again drag the handle all the way up. Okay, let's clip that inside. Drag down and to the right, and that's clipped inside as well. Now let's draw the window frame. So click on side and head down. We'll click on, let's press escape to deselect that shape, and we'll click up, and we'll just make it 1 block thick. And I'll make this slightly darker here, and I'll drag that out all the way to the bottom there. So whilst I'm doing this, I'm going to change the color of our window to something, maybe a really light blue, as if it's a nice sunny blue sky. Going back to our rectangle here, our window frame, let's make this slightly darker now, and we'll create the top piece of this window frame. So I'll press top and zoom in, and I'll drag that all the way down, and I'll make this really bright again because the sun's going to be hitting it. And we'll do the same again at the top. So press side and zoom in, press escape, select this section here, and up it goes. I'll just zoom out, grab the handle, and just drag it all the way up to the top. Drag the eyedropper tool onto the window frame and match the color. And we'll do the same again for up here. So I'm just going to press V, and I'm going to press Command J to duplicate that. I'm going to click on flip horizontal. I'm just going to drag that to the side here. I'm going to make this slightly lighter. I'm going to line it up properly because it didn't. Make it a lot lighter actually. I'll just make sure all the shapes we've just created are clipped inside of our window. To finish off the window, let's add some blinds to it to make it a little bit cooler. So I will just select the top layer here, and I'll zoom in a little bit. And whilst we're still on side, I'll click on M for our rectangle tool, and I'll just click from around about here, and I'll just drag it all the way out till around this kind of place here. I'll just make sure it's 1 thick, and I'll make it completely white. Now if I zoom in on this handle here, you'll see that it's an up and down arrow here, and if I go slightly further down, there's a left and right arrow, and that allows me to skew it slightly like so. And from this point, we can duplicate it all the way down. So I'll press the V for the move tool, and I'll press Command J to duplicate it, and I'll keep my finger on Shift and drag down slightly, just so a little bit of light poking out from behind. And I'll zoom out a little bit further. Okay, now I'll keep my finger on Command, and I'll press J repeatedly till I want it to finish. So I think we'll have it finished here. Now I'll tidy it up. I'll select all of those layers, Command G, and I'll just name it blinds. And looking at the color here, I think it's a little bit too dark. It's always good to go back and polish things off the way you like them. So I just select this shape and keep my finger on Shift and select that shape. I'll just make those slightly lighter. Now that I'm happy with that, I'll select all of the window layers and I'll group them together, and I'll call it window. Press return. Now let's add a bit more character to the room by creating a rug. So I think I'll have the rug around about here, and I will click off of Edit in Plane, and I will select the ellipse tool, and I'll create a circle here with the ellipse tool. Now I'll click off of stroke to get rid of that, and I'll create some kind of blue color. Maybe I'll make the same color as the wall so it kind of matches. So I've grabbed the eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to create the same kind of color. Next, Press Command J to duplicate that and make it slightly smaller. Head on up to the stroke up here, this donut looking shape, and click on white. Go to the fill tool and click on this. This will get rid of any fill tool. Next, head on up to the stroke thickness and increase the width. Next, go to Layer, Expand Stroke. It's no longer a stroke, it's now a curves in the layer panel. Now head to the Star tool and head to the center and just click and drag outwards like so. Let's get rid of that stroke and introduce just another white fill. Now if you look closely, you can see these red dots, and when I hover over them, it allows me to manipulate the shape further. If I click on this one, I can go in and out like this. If I click on this shape, it allows me to round off the corners. And if I click on this one, it allows me to increase the width on the outskirts of this shape. And I can also change the points at the top here. So I'm just going to create a few more points like this. And I'm going to make it slightly bigger. Keeping my finger on Command and Shift, I can increase the size, but keep the proportions. So I'll just select the top two layers here. Oh, before I go any further, I'll just press Convert to Curves to lock in that shape. So I'll select the first two layers and I'll press down and to the right, and that will clip them inside of the circle. Press V for the Move tool, and let's introduce it into the scene. Let's make it slightly smaller, keeping your finger on Command and Shift to resize proportionately. Zoom in, and I think I want it around about here. I'm going to head to Fit to Plane on the left, but first I have to press Top. So we're working on that plane. I'll just introduce the grid again. So we're on top, and now we'll press Fit to Plane. Let's make that slightly smaller. And I want it behind the bed. So I will just grab the layer. Should probably name it Rug. Press Return. Now click and drag it down underneath the bed layer. And now it's behind. And our rug is complete. Okay, let's create a bedside table here. So zoom in, activate the grid, click on Side, and we'll click on Edit to Plane again. And make sure your rectangle tool is selected, and we'll just start drawing our shape. I'll make it about that wide, and I'll make that slightly darker. Because everything's going to be color coordinated, I'll just select the color of the bed. Now let's create the other side. So I'll press Front, I'll press Escape, choose the corner, and I'll just drag out like so. And this is basically the cube again, so I won't spend too long doing this. I'll just go ahead and create it, as you all know how to make it by now. Let's create a couple of sections here. So I'll press Front, and I'll select the side like so, and I'll make that slightly darker. Now click Top and press Escape, and we'll select this corner here, and I'll just drag out about here, and I'll make this really dark, and we'll clip this shape inside of this shape here. So I'll just reorganize the layers panel. Okay, so click and drag down and to the right, and that's now clipped inside. We can make that slightly lighter. It looks a little bit more 3D now. So I'll just duplicate this shape, Command J, and I'll press the Move tool, zoom out a little bit, and I'll just duplicate it so it's around about here. Next, I'll add a light on top of here, tidying up the layers panel again, Command J, bedside table. And let's move this down behind the bed slightly And on the layers panel, just drag it underneath the bed and let's bring it a little bit closer to the bed. I think every bedside table should have a light on it, so let's go ahead and create that. So click M for the rectangle tool again, and we'll draw out a shape. Press V for the move tool, just have it slightly on the edge here, and let's duplicate that. Command J and bring it up slightly, and then keeping a finger on Command and Shift, we'll make it slightly smaller. And this one we can make a lot lighter. For this, we'll actually make it some kind of red color to introduce more color into this. And I'm just going to use this as a reference layer down here. So the next thing you're going to want to do is press P and head in and select this shape and this shape. And we'll just go around it like so. Make this some kind of red color like that. And let's make another one on the side here. So clicking around the edges. And make this darker. Press V for the move tool and we'll make this even lighter because the light will be touching that. Okay, let's make a kind of boxy light cover. So rectangle tool again. And let's choose front here. So let's draw something out like this and make it kind of yellowy color here. Press V for the move tool, bring it up slightly, and we'll press Command J to duplicate that. Transform panel up here, flip horizontal, drag it across until it snaps into place. Might have to zoom in a little bit for this. Make this slightly darker on this side, and we'll Command J to copy that again. And we'll drag it underneath. Press V, the move tool. We'll just drag it up. Oops. Let's flip that again. And we'll line it up like so. Again, we'll copy this one. Command J. And I'll just click on top. And then if I hold my finger on Shift, I can drag it out like that. Let's make the light bulb. So I'll click off of Edit in Plane. Head down here to the corners. I'll just drag out something like that and I'll make it completely white. Now I will drag it so it hides behind a couple of these panels. So maybe if I drag it up here, press V, the move tool, I'll just make sure that's in front. There we go. So it's hiding behind two panels. And I'll make that slightly smaller and we'll introduce a bit of a glow to this as well. So I'll press Effects layer down here, bottom right hand corner, and I'll press Outer Glow. Let's click on this. I will give it a yellow glow, a yellow warm glow. Around about here, and we'll just bump up the radius slightly. You can see that glow coming. If you look here, the glow is coming around the corner there, around the edges. And I will press Close. Let's make this slightly darker so that you can see that a little better. And we'll do the same with this. Eyedropper tool there. Now we just need a stem underneath really. So I'll just package these layers up. Command G. I just call it light. I just add that on top. This is our base here. Click on the rectangle tool and just click and drag down. We'll make this completely black. Press V, the move tool, and let's make it round kind of the center there. And the last thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to head on over to the corner tool up here. I'm going to click on that. Now I'm going to click and drag to select the bottom two nodes. And you see there's a little shape there, like half a circle, little bent shape there. Just going to click and drag. That means I can create rounded corners. So round about there. I'm going to click Bake Corners to bake that in. Press on the Move tool again. And I'm just going to package all of this up and stick them in a group. So selecting light and all the other layers here. Command G, and we'll call it light. Okay, so to complete this, we'll draw a couple of books and some bookshelves. So let's activate the grid again. Let's zoom in. Let's make sure Edit in Plane is on and you're on the rectangle tool. And we'll just draw out maybe something like that. We'll give it some kind of brown color. Got the top of the shelf. Now let's create the side of the shelf. Make that darker. Click on the front, press escape. And I'll make that slightly lighter. Let's group these together. Command G. Shelf. Return. Press V, the move tool. Let's bring it down a little bit so it's easier for them to get to the books. And let's duplicate that. Command G. We'll drag the other one to around about here. Now let's create a couple of books. So whilst we're still on front, just press M and we'll create the book on here. So we'll make it about that thick. We'll make a kind of pink book, something that will show up on this background. Click side, press escape, and drag down. And let's make that darker. Press V, the move tool, and Command J. So we duplicate this layer here. We'll just drag the layer underneath up whilst holding Shift. We'll drag that underneath there. And let's make that even darker, this section here. Now all we have to create is the paper inside. So I'll just grab the top plane, again, rectangle tool, and I'll drag out and to around about here. Let's make that completely white. Let's package this up. So Command G, I'll call it book. And let's populate it with a few of these books. So press Command J, that's going to duplicate it. Press V for the move tool, and we'll just drag out a few. Make that slightly closer so it's not so uniform. And we can change one of the colors. We'll change this color here. And just drag it from the side and make a kind of darker blue one. Seems to be the theme, doesn't it? Okay, we've got our blue book. I'll just grab that. I'll just press Command and I'll click and drag onto the next shelf. Maybe that one over here. Grab one of these, Command, and click and drag. And one more blue book. And I'll make sure that's underneath. Oops. So books and shelves are complete. So for the finishing touches, let's add skirting to each of the walls. So I'm just going to double click on the wall here. You can see it in the layers panel highlighted. I'm going to press Command J to duplicate that. I'm going to make it completely white. I'm just going to drag down. I'm going to activate that grid so I can see how many. I'm going to press front as well. I'm just going to make it, and I'm just going to press Command C on that to copy that. I'm going to close that wall. I'm going to open the other wall. I'm going to click on the same layer of that wall. I'm going to press Command V. That's just going to copy that into there. And you can see it's still over here, but I'll just flip it around and I'll just drag it across. You can see it's within that shape. I'll just zoom in and snap it in place. So finishing touches, what else could you do? Well, you could add more curved kind of objects in here, like the back of the bed base, which I'll show you in a minute. Or you could add texture to the walls or the carpet. So like one quick way of doing it would be to select the wall, just to add a little bit of texture. And up here under the colors panel, you can click, see where it says opacity? If you click on this, it turns into a thing called noise, and it's got a slider. So if I click and slide that up slightly, you can see it's introducing some kind of grainy texture into the wall. So that looks kind of cool. So you could do that to both walls. I'll just press back on this one and I'll do it to both walls. There you go, add some grainy texture to it. So you can do something like that. Just press back to get it back to normal. What else could you do? Well, let's not forget you have the stock tab down here, the stock panel. And it says Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay. And this is where you can get free photos or textures and the like. So I'll just type in something like carpet. I have no idea what's going to turn up, by the way. Okay, carpet. Not sure if this is carpet, but basically this is stock websites that you can just literally click and drag out. And let's see what happens. Okay, it's a big photo. It looks like it's grass, but it's by this gentleman here. So if I zoom out and make that slightly smaller, I can introduce this to, say, the floor. So if I go back to the layers panel, it's on top here. Just going to drag it down, all the way down till it gets to the floor layer. And just going to open up the floor layer here and lay it on top of the floor. And in fact, I'm going to clip it inside the floor. Okay, now it's in here. I can head on over to fit to plane, but I'm going to make sure I'm on top. And I'll press fit to plane, and now it's fit like that. So you could just drag it out and make it slightly bigger if you wanted. Something like that. And although it doesn't really go, you can head up here, just above the layers panel, and you can cycle through these options. So it kind of shows whatever color is underneath. So add a little bit. So I could just click overlay. We zoom in. Although it looks like grass, it's added some texture to that space. So that's a really good option. And it's really cool that that's available straight from a panel instead of me having to go to a website to do it. Okay, one last thing. I'll just make a few things slightly bigger. So I'll just choose the bed here. And I'll just drag that out so it's slightly bigger. Make that rug slightly bigger as well. And the table and chair and the piece of paper. I'll make that bigger too. And that paper, I want that to be poking out a little bit more, like that. Okay, what about making isometric designs with more curves? Well, imagine if you wanted the headboard of the bed here, if you wanted the corners to be a bit more rounded, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to try and recreate the headboard and give it some rounded corners. So I'll just hide the design, and I will select the rectangle tool, and I'll just draw a rectangle. Okay, and I will now click on the corner tool, and I will select the top two nodes, and I will simply click and drag one of the nodes out, and because they're both selected, it looks kind of like that. Okay, so we'll make a rounded corner a bit like that. I'm going to press bake corners, which means I won't be able to change it again. And now I will do the same with the bottom. Actually, I'll just change the corners on them just slightly. Okay, and I'll bake those corners there. Okay, let's activate our grid. Command and single quotation mark shortcut. I'll just make it a tiny bit smaller. I'll press fit to plane, but I'll press side first and then fit to plane. Okay, there it is. There's our headboard. I'll just line it up to some of the grid here. The next thing I'm going to want to do is to duplicate this. So Command J to duplicate. You can see here in the layers panel. I'll select the layer underneath, and I'll just go back to the shape, and I'll click, hold my finger on shift and drag back a little bit. So we got some depth. And I'll just change the color so we can see what's going on here. Okay, we've got two shapes here. We need to join up this shape so it looks like a block, so to speak. I'm going to click on front on this pane, and just going to zoom in slightly. I'm going to select both of these shapes, and I'm just going to line it up to the grid a little bit. It's activated this grid, so they're both touching this line. Okay, with my front plane selected, I'm going to grab the rectangle tool again, and I'm going to press edit in plane. I'm just going to click and drag on the outermost edge. I'm going to go all the way up to the one over there as well. I'm just going to drag this on the layers panel behind. So I'll just zoom in to see whether anything's poking out. No, that looks okay. And I'll just head up here to see whether it's poking out. You can see it is a little bit. So I'll just bring that back slightly. And I will drag this up. So we've got the main shape behind, and we've got this extra bit that we've just drawn, this bit here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these layers. So this one, and I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click on that one. So both of them are selected and I'm going to make them one shape. I'm going to go up to the geometry tools and I'm going to press add. Turn off the grid, you can see that is looking pretty good. Okay, we've got to do the same for up here. I'll just activate the grid again. And once again, I'll just press the move tool, V, and I'll select both of them and I'll line it up to the grid again. Using the grid is super useful. So this time I'm going to use the pen tool just to fill this gap here. So pen tool, I'm going to click on that, or shortcut is P. I'm going to find the outermost edge here, which is probably about here. I'm going to click, I'm going to go to the next one, I'm going to click there, and I'm just going to click anywhere down here just to complete the shape. And I'll click on the dropper tool or dripper tool, select that color, and there we go. I'll just drag that behind. Now I'll press V for the move tool and select off. Let's have a look, see if it's worked. Yes, worked there and it's worked there. Okay, and once again, we've got these two shapes here. This one that I've just made and the background one. So I'm just gonna select both of them and I'm gonna press plus, add. So it's gonna add both of those shapes together into one shape. And I'll turn off the grid so we can see what we've created so far. So you can see it's looking a little bit more three-dimensional. I think the next step to really show how three-dimensional it is to add a gradient to this. So it's not just one block. Say the sun was coming down or the light source was coming down from the top. It might be a bit lighter here and a bit darker there. So let's do that. So selecting our bottom layer here, I will head on up to the fill tool, this one here. Shortcut is G, that's what I'm going to press, G. And I'm just going to click anywhere on the shape and I'm just going to drag it out. So about here, I will select the bottom color and I'll head up to my color panel. I'm just going to make that a little bit lighter because I think that's too dark. And I think I will add on the corner here, if you just click on the line, you can add another one. I will make that slightly lighter again. Yeah, about there. And I will add one more. Something like that. You can see it's not quite lined up, but I think that would be lined up. This looks straight, that looks kind of straight. And make that a little bit lighter as well. So you can see it looks a lot more three-dimensional now. Whilst I'm here, and this is green, instead of it being a headboard, why don't we make it into a lollipop? And I can show you some other tricks. A lollipop with a bite out of it at the top here. We've kind of got a lollipop already. Let's add the lollipop stick using everything we've just learnt. So I'll activate my grid again. I will choose side. And at this moment, I won't edit in plane. I'll just do what I did before. So I'll select my rectangle tool and I will just draw out a kind of rectangle like that. I'll go up to fill. I don't need that one. I'll just go to color and choose some kind of yellow color. And next thing I'll do is hit the corner tool. Let's zoom in a bit. Select both nodes at the bottom. Make it kind of round like that. And I will bake the corners. Go back on the move tool first and then fit to plane. And I will just drag that underneath the green lolly. Okay, same again. We have to duplicate this. So Command J to duplicate. I will select the underlayer and I will just click and drag whilst holding Shift. Drag it out a little bit and let's make that slightly darker. Okay, we have our two shapes again. Now all we have to do is fill in this gap. So I'll grab the pen tool and I'll just select the outermost layer here, which is, I'm kind of guessing, probably here. I could line it up like I said before on the grid. I'm not going to do that this time. Just going to wing it. And I'll grab the dripper tool, select that. So I'll add these two shapes together again. So in the layers panel, I'll just select this one, hold down shift, select that one, and head up to geometry tools, add, and now that's done. And I will group them because I like being tidy in my layers panel, and I'll press Command G to group, and we'll call that the stick. And up here, we won't group this just yet because I have another trick to show you. Let's line that up slightly better, shall we? That's a pretty thick stick there, but hey, we could always make it smaller, I suppose. There we go. We have our lollipop. Okay, let's create a bite out of this. How would I do that? So I will just drag all of this to the side, and I'll just duplicate the top section here. That's Command J, and I will drag that out to the side so we can work on that one. Okay, let me just sort the layers out so they're together. Okay, these are the two layers we're working on. And I'll just name it 1 and 2 so that it's obvious to you guys which ones we're working on. Let me make this one deep color just so it's a bit easier to see what's going on. Okay, so let's make a bite out of this shape. I'm going to grab the pen tool, and I'm just going to create some kind of bite, maybe from here. So I'll click on this, click once. I will drag out, click and drag out, and I will click it about here. I'll just finish off the shape by just pressing anywhere like that. Okay. I will make this black now so we can see where the bite's going to come out of. Okay, that's good. I'm going to press V for the move tool, and I want to duplicate this so it can take a bite out of this other layer underneath. I'm going to press Command J. I'm just going to activate the grid again. Okay, and I'll just press top so we can see where we are. Here in the layers panel, I have two of these shapes now, exactly the same shapes. I'm just going to drag one of them out. I'm just going to zoom in so we can see. What we want to do is line that up perfectly with this. So I'm just going to do it by eye here. It's about there. Okay, that's done. So now we're going to want to take bites out of each of these shapes. So starting with this one, we will take a chunk out of this shape here. So I'll select this one, and I will press Shift and select the shape I want to take a bite out of, and I'll head up to the geometry tools at the top here, and I'll press Subtract. Okay, that's done it. Let's do the same with the other one behind. So making sure the one you always want to subtract out of the other shape, make sure that's always on top. So the black one here, let me zoom in so you can see. So this one always wants to be on top of the one you want to subtract that shape from. So zooming out again, I'll select both of them. You can do it here in the layers panel. And up here, this is the one you want, the subtract. Okay, that's done. We've taken a bite out of it, but we need to make that look a lot more three-dimensional, I think. Let's get the pen tool out again, and let's draw a shape. So I will select the edge of this point here, and I'll head up to this section here. And it doesn't really matter about this bit. You just got to make your way to the next point and zoom in, select this point here, and let's draw around here. It doesn't really matter too much about that bit because we're going to be hiding all of that. Okay, let's make it black so we can see what we've done. And we're going to want to clip this black inside of our shape underneath. So in the layers panel, I'll just click and drag down, and slightly to the right, you can see it kind of moving there. It's clipped inside. If I go out, no, it's not clipped. Drag to the right, it's clipped in there. Let's add some green. So I'll head to the fill tool again over here. And I'll just click and drag out like this. So up here, I want it to be a little bit darker. Not that dark though, maybe about here. And in the middle, I want to add another one. I want that to be a little bit lighter. And a little bit more, just so it's just the lip there that's it's a bit darker. And that one can be slightly darker as well. Okay. And again, now we can add the fill to this whole section like we did before. So I'll just click and drag now that I've selected the whole shape again. And down here, we don't want it that dark, do we? Just add it about, maybe about here. And at the top, let's make that much lighter. So we can get rid of this now, and we can select this. I will just group that. Okay, there we have it. We have a lolly with a perfect circular bite out of it. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope that's helped you get started with isometric design. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but we got there in the end. If you liked the video, press like and consider subscribing. If you have any questions or ideas for new videos, leave them in the comments section below. I'm always happy to read and respond to them. Okay, see you on the next video.